Hello and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. Today is Sunday, the 10th of January in the year 2021, and I am in lovely Escazú, Costa Rica, where I am sitting on my patio because it's in the afternoon, and I have the lovely aroma of honeysuckle because of my plant that's not far from me, which is in full bloom. So this is very pleasant. There are birds squawking in the background. So if you hear them, they are just contributing to the podcast. Maybe you can decipher what they're saying, because I can't. But they must have something to say, right? Okay, I hope you are all doing well. This has been a very strange week. It has been an upsetting week, but also, an intense astrology week that it's not like we didn't expect this. One of the things that I talked about last week is that there were 3 planets changing signs, and the big one was Mars going into Taurus, and it was leaving Aries, and that was Wednesday the 6th. And, it was later in the day for us in the Central Time Zone, or if you were in the Eastern Time Zone, but it still, that last degree of Aries, that 29 degrees of Aries, that in astrology is what we call the anaretic degree. And whenever there's the 29th degree of the sign, which is the last degree before it flips to the new sign. And when a planet such as Mars has been spending so much time in its own sign and went retrograde there and back and forth, I think it went retrograde about 28 degrees, which means that it hit its station retrograde point and then went backwards and then came forwards at 15 degrees. But it stayed in Aries the whole time from last June, the end of June, to Wednesday. And I knew that this would be important because it was changing signs for the first time in 6 months. And Mars has not been retrograde in its own sign since like 1987 or 1988. So that was a big deal. But I didn't expect what we got. And, Mars is a warrior planet. Aries is a warrior kind of sign. And one of the things that we need to pay attention to is that when a planet that's in its own sign hits the anaretic degree of that sign, usually we're going to get a stronger dose of the energy of, in this case, Mars, which is, a warrior kind of planet. And it is a warrior planet. But it had retrograded at 28, and that was back in September, and it was retrograding, that point was just a few days ago. That 28 degrees, Mars reached it just a few days ago. So it only popped out of its shadow, really Tuesday, Wednesday. Now, 29 degrees Aries, or 29 degrees of any sign, is sort of the deepest, most intense part of the sign before we switch over to the next sign. And so, especially 29 Pisces, and I know that's not what we're talking about, but 29 Pisces is the end of the zodiac, and it's about surrender, and it's about, sometimes it's about a sacrifice. And in this case, this was very much a typically 29 degree, Mars at 29 degrees. Usually it'll be a bump, but since it was retrograde and since it hadn't gotten there and since it passed its shadow, and then it was like all this energy got juiced up, and we were waiting for this to change, and it was like, oh, finally Mars is going to leave and going to go into Taurus, and I don't think it's let up. I don't think the energy has let up. I think it's intense. I think it's going to continue to be intense, and I think we need to get some energy for ourselves, relax, rest, peace, stability, and because the next couple of weeks are going to be a bit rocky. So Mars may hit that point and, nothing happens. But since this was kind of a special event, it did give us an actual event on Wednesday. And when we look at 29 degrees of any sign, I always think of it as like, I always have this image of, a coffee maker, and it's got the ends of the coffee, and some people call that the dregs. And as it sits on the coffee heater, it just gets like boils off the water, even if it's not boiling anymore. It just kind of, and it just intensifies, and the end of the pot is just, it's like coffee goo. It's just the end of the coffee. That's what I think of the end of 29 degrees of a sign, especially if something has stationed or come close to stationing or is passing over there, like Mars. And so all the intense, deep, dark, juicy, sometimes not flavorful, sometimes a burnt flavor, that dark brown taste. I has once said in an old song, that dark brown taste. I want to wake up in the morning with that dark brown taste. That's what that's like. And that's what we had this week. It was that dark brown taste. Meaning it's like after smoking too many cigarettes and drinking too many pots of very dark coffee. Okay? Very black, dense coffee, or the ends of the coffee, or the deepest part of the espresso. That's what's meant by that dark brown taste. But I'm not a smoker, but I am a coffee drinker, and there are times when you get bad coffee and it's got that dark brown taste. And I feel like I'm doing a coffee commercial now. Now we're in advertising. But anyway, coffee that doesn't have that dark brown taste. So what really that was about was the darkest, deepest, richest part of the Aries. And when it moved in, it was just trying to move into Taurus and to get some stability, and all mayhem broke loose. So then it moved into Taurus, and then things started to get organized. But I know personally, I can tell you, I have not felt right. There were 2 planets that changed signs on Friday. I thought that was some upheaval. Mercury went into Aquarius, Venus went into Capricorn. We expected these things. But I think it has been far more exhausting than we expected. So I think a lot of things came up for people, and I think a lot of things are going to continue to come up for people. So let's talk about what Mercury is doing. Mercury is in Aquarius now. That means it hit the point of the Jupiter-Saturn. So remember last week I said that's going to hit the point of the Jupiter-Saturn. So if things felt uncomfortable for you on Friday, which they did for me, I woke up in the morning and I didn't have the dark brown taste, but it wasn't a good taste in my mouth. And so something was afoot, and then shortly after that, Venus went into Capricorn. And so too much change, too much. Now, Venus is trining Mars. That's nice that the happy relationship planets are talking to each other. Isn't that nice? But Mercury is squaring Mars, or it was, and now it's wedged itself. Yesterday it conjunct Saturn last night, and then it wedged itself between Jupiter and Saturn. And now it's past Saturn, and it's going to go to Jupiter, but it won't do that until tomorrow morning. Actually, in the Pacific time zone, it'll be 9:19 a.m., and that means it'll be like noonish, 20 afternoon, and in the Eastern time zone in 11:19 where I am. So there we have Mercury wedged itself. Mercury, the planet of communication. Mercury, who has a lot to say right now because he's talking to Saturn, moving along, talking to Jupiter. And so this is a really intense kind of complete upheaval. And Aquarius, maybe some mild-mannered Aquarians. I'm a pretty mild-mannered Aquarian, but what really starts to happen is the ecstatic, eclectic Aquarius comes forward, and here's Mercury, which gets electrified by Aquarius. It squares Mars, and then it moves on to conjunct Saturn. So right away, there's persnickety attitudes, and there's pessimism, and I can't take much more of this, and there's squawking, and there's yeah, like I'm thinking not on a positive level. And then we moved Mercury to Jupiter, and it's like, ooh, yeah, I can be optimistic about this. You know what? We're going to go in a better direction. Well, so there may feel like there's some healing today that was not there the other day, as both Mercury and Jupiter are sextiling Chiron in these next couple of days. And so then Mercury goes to Jupiter tomorrow, and it should feel a little lighter as Mercury moves out of the realm in between those two planets. Now, we're going to get more of that this week as the moon goes into Aquarius. But before that happens, we're going to have a new moon on the 12th. And last week I mentioned this new moon. And the new moon is not any old new moon. This is the new moon that's going to occur with Pluto. So the new moon is at 23 degrees of Capricorn, and Pluto is at 24 degrees of Capricorn, which is where it met Jupiter last April for the first time, okay? And met Jupiter last June for the second time. So, and here we are on the anniversary of, we're about to have the anniversary of the Saturn-Pluto, which was the 12th. And so this new moon is going to occur, and it's going to be really a whopper, okay? So it's triggering Pluto. Now, it's 1 degree away from Pluto, but a couple of hours later, the moon is going to go over Pluto. Sure, of course it will. The new moon is technically, it's at midnight, the 13th. So it's 11 p.m. for me, but it's midnight on the East Coast, and the West Coast will get it at 9 p.m. on the 12th. But the thing is that it's not going to be a real surprise to anyone that there's going to be an intensity to the new moon. I mean, these days have felt intense, and we're in the dark of the moon now because the moon's in Sag, it's going to go into Capricorn, and then it's going to go really, really into a powerful conjunction with Pluto. Now that's the moon. The sun is going to conjunct Pluto 2 days later. See what's going, or a day and a half or so later. See what's going to happen is the new moon is going to happen midnight Tuesday, and Wednesday the 13th. Wednesday the 13th. And it'll be on and close to Pluto, and then by later that evening, the sun-moon conjunction, the new moon, is just going to light up Pluto, okay? So it's going to bring some light in the darkness and show us what's going on, and, a few hours later, it will conjunct Pluto and then go void. So the moon is going to greet the sun. We're going to have this enlightening moment, a transformational enlightening moment. The moon is going to then move to Pluto a couple hours later and then go void, which means it's not talking to any more planets. Now, on the 13th, this is all happening the wee hours of the 13th, Mars is going to square Saturn. So Mars, remember what happened last year. Mars, was in Aries, hit that COVID cluster by square, 1, 2, 3, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, in August. Then went forward, through Aries, and then hit the retrograde point at the end of September, 28 degrees or so. Went backwards, hit Saturn again, hit Jupiter, Pluto eventually again, and then this was the beginning of October, and then was backwards for a while. When it finally went forwards in November, it squared Pluto only, because by the time it was in the range of squaring Pluto on the 23rd of December, Jupiter and Saturn had already moved ahead into Aquarius. So Mars has still been slow. It wasn't going to turn around, boom, hit Jupiter and Saturn quickly like it did back in August, because Mars was still getting speed from having been retrograde and going direct. And this is what planets do. So Mars then moved along, hit the end of Aries, got into Taurus, and now it's going to start squaring Saturn. It's going to start squaring Jupiter. It will square Jupiter not on the same day it squares Saturn, because Jupiter's already a little bit ahead. So it'll square Jupiter on the 21st, but it's in, the wee hours of the night. Now, when Mars squares Saturn this week, it's going to, be again in the wee hours of the night, and, the East Coast time. And it's going to be, it's a Mars square Saturn. So we're having this new moon with Pluto. We're having Mars square Saturn. And then the moon is going to move into Aquarius and get involved with Saturn and Jupiter. So Mars is going to square Saturn, and then the moon is going to come in and get involved with Saturn and Jupiter. So I expect this to be another intense week. It's going to have something to do with the story that we learned on the 6th. There's going to be a nice bird chirping in the background. There is going to be some real intensity around Mars, which is the warrior planet, which is in Taurus, a sign that it does not love. It seems to be slower and not at its best in Taurus, but it's not like it's not going to do anything. And then it's going to be moving along in the sign of Taurus until it reaches Uranus, which is going to be the 20th in a week and a half. And then it's going to square Jupiter a couple days later on the 22nd. But, this is all really, really, really intense. And it's, thankfully Mars is not going to come back and do this again. Once it's finished with Saturn and Jupiter, it's finished for a long time. It'll do something else to them later in the year. We're not there yet. We're focusing on right now. One of the things that's important is there was a story started back in August, and the story involved Mars to Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn in the COVID cluster that was in Capricorn. That story finished something at around Christmas time, but now it's finishing with a different ending, with a twisted ending. It's finishing with a twist. That story that started in August is now look at your life. What happened in August? What happened? Were there aggravating things in August? I had some aggravating things in August. Then they kind of got more aggravating in September, right? Yeah. And then you were pretty much figured that you couldn't do this anymore. You were done with it, or you were pissed about it, or something happened where you were not happy with a certain situation, or there was an irritation in your life, maybe that irritation went away. But there was a story about that irritation, and the story has a twist ending. Why? Because Mars changed signs and Saturn and Jupiter changed signs. Saturn and Jupiter changed signs to the wild, eclectic, unexpected realms of Uranus, which rules Aquarius, so they're in Aquarius. Mars is going to conjunct Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, on the 20th. And, it's going to be later in the afternoon, but it's still going to be an orb, the day before. So, oh boy. So as if this is all like Greek, what is it? This is like, what? We're living a Greek myth right now. We are living one of those Greek myths right now. So go review your Greek myths. Go read about Zeus. Go read about the Trojan War. Go read about Prometheus, who is Uranus. Go read about the whole experience of the Greeks and their myths, okay? Because that's what we're living right now, a Greek myth. So Mars, who is, is running the show here right now, is going into a place where he's not necessarily welcomed. So he's not really running the show. But he's going into a place And he and Uranus, now both he and Uranus are going to get together on the 20th. Neither one of them want to be in Taurus. They both like Scorpio. So this is going to be a little bit, Mars and Uranus, when they get together, are explosive. And then it's not just that it's Mars, it's going to be Mars in between a square that it made to Saturn, which is going to happen on the 13th, and then another square that it's making to Jupiter, what's going to happen on the 22nd. So it's really something that is a complicated arrangement, and Mars is triggering it. So the story that we all had during the last 6 months of 2020, last 5 months of 2020, August, September, October, November, December, that story is going to have a twisted end. So whatever was going on, if you were irritated with someone or something in your life, or there was a situation, you are moving into a new ending. There's a new ending for the story, and it is going to have an unexpected event, an unexpected ending. Ta-da! Wow, I didn't expect that to happen, It might be a good unexpected ending. It might be like, and they all lived happily, sort of, for a long time. Not so much ever after. So they all lived weirdly ever after, or they all lived strangely ever after, but they all lived surprisingly for a long time afterwards. That story has an interesting chapter. So, and we haven't seen the end of the story yet. We don't really know. We did not expect the events of Wednesday. Someone said to me, "Hey, you hit it right on the nose." I said, "No, I didn't really." I just said Mars was going to change signs that day, but it was going to be going into a different conversation. So it's having the same conversation with Pluto, it had the same conversation with Pluto, but it's having the same conversation with Saturn and Jupiter, but they're in different areas of the zodiac, meaning that they're no longer talking the same story. They're talking about a twisted end to the old story. So that was the old story. This is a new story. So these are all hot dates. In the meantime, the planet Uranus has been retrograde since August of last year, another August time, and it is going direct on the 14th. So it will go direct on the 14th in the wee hours of the night, and we'll wake up on the morning of the 14th, and Uranus will be direct. But this is the day that the sun conjuncts Pluto. So, okay, try to stay with me. Right now, Mercury is between Jupiter and Saturn, and they're having a conversation. It's having a conversation, sometimes optimistic, sometimes pessimistic. Tomorrow it should turn more optimistic as Jupiter and Mercury get together in conjunction. Okay. It should be somewhat healing as Mercury and Jupiter both make a nice aspect to Chiron, which is where we integrate our healing. Okay. Then we move on to Tuesday, where there's this new moon, or Wednesday. It's really midnight in New York or Eastern time, and late on Tuesday, and for me. And then it's a new moon, but it's with Pluto. Moon's going to cross over Pluto, go void. Then the moon is going to go into Aquarius, okay, which is where all the hot stuff is happening now. So then we're going to have the moon, Mercury, Saturn, Jupiter, 4 planets in Aquarius, okay? So there's a lot of electricity, okay? Then Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, is going to go direct the next day on the 14th. And that will happen in the middle of the night, as will the sun conjunct Pluto. So now the sun, even though the moon and the sun are coming together, the sun is still a little bit separated from Pluto. It's not reached Pluto yet. The moon will, because it moves faster. But the sun is going to come to Pluto on the 14th. And then we're going to say, oh, that's bump, the last ounce of that new moon with Pluto. Okay. Then we're moving into the rest of the week, which is where the moon changes signs on, the 15th, where it is going into Pisces, and then it's going to, we're going to go into the rest of the week. Next Sunday, however, Jupiter will make its square to Uranus. So this is going to be like an eclectic, surrealistic kind of week. So don't expect it to be normal. Just roll with it, baby. Roll with it. Just go with the flow and roll. Now, I don't even want to get into the fact that by the time the 20th occurs, we're going to have the sun in Aquarius. So Mercury will be in Aquarius, the Sun will be in Aquarius, Jupiter and Saturn will be in Aquarius, the Moon won't be there anymore. So we'll have 4 planets in Aquarius again. Lots of air in the sky, lots of conversations, lots of high-level conversations. So if your dreams are really complicated, or if your conversations are really like intellectual or abstract, this is Aquarius, okay? Mars will greet Uranus on the 20th in Taurus as it gets revved up to square Jupiter on the 22nd. So this week is intense. Next week, like that starts the 17th, that's intense, and we just keep rolling along here, Okay, for those in the United States who are expecting the inauguration on the 20th, normally the inauguration occurs at noon Washington, D.C. time, which is Eastern Standard Time. I think that he has to be inaugurated by noon. The moon will be void in Aries at 29 degrees Aries. Okay, it's going to be void. It's going to be void for a little while, but at noon it'll be at 29 degrees Aries, which is where Mars was on the 6th on Wednesday. So that is now a kind of a trigger point or a famous point, and so we have to pay attention to those things, okay? So I would say pay very close attention, write things down, journal about how you're feeling, sit with yourself. This is exhausting. And, we thought last year was over. Yeah, you know what? They're getting some sort of handle on the pandemic, sort of. Because they've got some vaccine and they're vaccinating people, but we don't know what that means yet. We really don't, because we don't know the long-term effects of that. Okay, so that's one story, but there's other stories, and there's other stories that are happening around the world and in your personal life. And so when you are experiencing this stuff, I want you to write it down, and I want you to review it, and I want you to purge your words and your emotions on your page, okay? Because you really need to pay attention. We each need to pay attention these next couple of weeks, and we need to stay put, and we need to stay relaxed, and we need to take care of ourselves, and we don't need extra stress, okay? And this is a very powerful time. This is an enormous shift, enormous shift. Remember, Jupiter and Saturn got together, and they're still together. They're still close, even though they're not on top of each other like they were on the 21st of December. They're still on top. They're still close. And planets are now triggering them. So the moon is triggering them, and then Mercury's triggering them, and Mars is triggering them. So you have to sort of get more information, glean information from Jupiter and Saturn over these weeks, over these last couple of weeks, over these last few days, and just pay attention to where things are falling for you and what's happening. I know if I speak to my own life, major stuff I've been wanting to shift and change has come up for shift and change. Hey, that's a good thing. That does not mean it's been easy. On the one hand, Jupiter, it's freeing. On the other hand, Saturn, there's work to be done to get free of it, to know that, oh, thank goodness, I finally figured this out. But guess what? I have to do some work to get through it and really find the freedom on the other side of it. So this is intense. We are all experiencing this. We're all connected. We are all connected by energy. We are connected psychically. We are in a collective together. We need to pay attention to what's happening and not freak out. You know what? Everyone should just be taking care of themselves right now. And, and your loved ones. Don't ignore your children. Because, oh, Deb says I have to take care of myself. The kids, I don't care if they go in the yard and they, get frostbite from the snow. Or where, depending on where you live, they drown in the pool. No. You've got to pay attention to your loved ones and your family and hold everyone close to you right now. And hold yourself close to you, and hold your cat close to you, and hold your puppy close to you, and hold your pillow and your teddy bear close to you, because this is what we need right now. We need comfort. Taurus is a sign of comfort. Mars in Taurus is not comforting. Mars and Uranus in Taurus is like, where's the comfort? Where's the comfort? I want to be comfortable. We're not going to be comfortable just yet. So you have to find the comfort somewhere in your life, and really understand where that is so you can feel consoled. Find what consoles you and go there. Okay. And I don't mean overindulgence, because right now the moon is on the south node, right? As I speak, moon's on the south node, and that could be overindulgence, especially in Sagittarius. I don't mean go out and get plastered. That's not consoling. I don't mean go out and stuff your face with chocolate cake. That's not consoling. That's consumption, and it's overindulgence. I don't mean go out and spend money you don't have. I mean, you have to go inward, be with yourself, take a hot bath. There's back to the bubble bath. There's the staying in bed. So we're not out of bed and we're not out of the bubble bath yet. But we have to find consolation in our lives. Go to your friends that listen to you. Go to your family members that will sit with you. Have a cup of tea with someone you love. Share stories. Connect with people. Reminisce. Taurus is very traditional. They like things like reminiscing. If you're in a place like I am where you can plant your garden or tend to your garden, tend to your garden. The plants and nature is really there for us right now. And that's a place to go because we are in the Taurian realms. We're with Mars and with Uranus, okay? And there's this toss-up between the security of Taurus and the wild unknown of Aquarius. And that is not comfortable. So we've got to find comfort. We've got to navigate this. If nature comforts you, go out and see. I'm sitting here doing a very technological, updated thing. I'm doing a podcast that's very Aquarian, but I'm sitting surrounded by nature and honeysuckle and plants and stuff. Okay, so I'm trying to match the two of those things. That's a good example of Taurus meeting with Aquarius some way. Okay, and find the comfort in that. So that's our journey these next couple weeks, is trying to find some comfort and consolation in our lives. What will do that for us without overindulgence? Okay, things are rocking and rolling out there, and if you need support, I have an Instagram, the Golden Astrologer, and you can listen to me talk about everyone needing support right now, and that what we can do to help navigate this every day, or almost every day. I make a video. You can go and have a session with me. Go to my website, it's goldenastrologer.com. Click book online, get a session with me. And we can talk about it and how you feel and what you're feeling and what this crazy world is offering you right now. We're going to get past this. Don't worry. We're going to get past this. But, it's just, nothing speaks to the unexpected as much as Aquarius. So that's one thing. Then, if you need me, you can email me, info@thegoldenastrologer.com, and, we can talk if you need an appointment or not. And go to the people you love and tell them you love them, and hold your cat close and hold your friends close to you, and, and meditate. My goodness, please meditate. Meditate through the new moon. Meditate through, to get grounded, to tap into the quantum field, to be comfortable in the place of the unknown. That's one of the great things about meditation, is meditating into the place and being comfortable with the unknown. Because when we meditate, we've got to get to a place where we're nothing. We're pure consciousness. And if we stay in the realm of pure consciousness, we are comfortable in the unknown. So that's our job this week. Okay, comfortable in the unknown, and finding comfort in your everyday life, because you can't stay in the unknown all day. But find some comfort and be comfortable with the unknown. Thank you for listening. I wish you a beautiful week. I wish you a most beautiful week. And, stay clear, stay comforted, stay grounded, and much gratitude for all of you for listening.